Hi everyone, this is Stan, hope you're all having a great day. Today let's talk about Stop Asian Hate protests that are happening in the United States and all around the world right now. Last time during a live stream on my main channel, I've been asked to make a video on what's going on right now in the US and what is my stance on it. And especially as a person who has been living in Asia for 9 years, who has Asian family members, I think I can give my points of view on what's going on right now. I think that many realize that year 2019-2020 are the 2 years of ethnic tensions and actually the year of growth of those tensions. And especially 2020 became a year of growth of prejudice towards Asian people. And right after the CCP virus outbreak, I actually made a video of possibilities of racist behaviors towards Asian people. And in that video that I made more than a year ago, I said that we should separate the Chinese people and the Chinese government, who is guilty of the pandemic, who helped to conceal the pandemic. As the Chinese people don't have any voting rights, they didn't choose their government, they didn't elect Xi Jinping and other Communist Party leaders. Most of them are just kept hostage. Therefore, the regular Chinese people have nothing to do with their government. And it's not the people who are to blame, but the dictatorship. A whole year passed since then. And right now we see the growth of racist behavior towards Asian people. But what scares me the most is that the racial card and that movement Stop Asian Hate is being used by the Chinese Communist Party. And also let's not forget about the leftist media, who like to portray everything from the racial perspective. Like the recent Atlanta shooting. We still don't have the results of official expertise, police didn't make their verdict, but channels like CNN are saying that that's a hate crime committed against Asians. I'm not CNN, I'm not giving any biased conclusions, but in my opinion, it's not as simple as they say it is. I think, and this is just my private opinion, that it is a hate crime committed probably against Asians, but also probably against sex workers and probably against women, or maybe against three of those groups at the same time. And I think we also have to look thoroughly at the religious aspect of this crime. Robert Aaron Long is a member of Crabapple Baptist Church, and this church has a so-called purity culture in place. The suspect admitted that he is suffering from sex addiction, so probably he also feared that his salvation is at risk. And being an addict and a member of a pretty orthodox church at the same time, he probably just hated himself and blamed everything on those poor women. And again, I'm not an expert, but I think we should give this crime a second look. But the leftists, like every time, they like to play racial card here. And some CCP-affiliated organizations are always happy to jump on that bandwagon. Look at the Daily Mail, a pro-CCP media outlet who published a fabricated tweet by Robert Aaron Long. And it has been proven to be fabricated. And of course they didn't apologize after being exposed for publishing fakes. Look at the organizations that are taking part in those Stop Asian Hate rallies. There are United Front members, there are Chinese students organizations that sometimes are affiliated to the Chinese government. And just look at that rally. This person prepared a banner, Stop Asian Hate, hold CCP liable. Yes, the CCP is the most Asian-hating organizations. Yes, I agree with him here. And you see how they don't allow this person, who is also Asian, to take this banner out. There is also another thing we should be worried about, is how the conservative media outlets or YouTube channels with a very strong stance against the CCP are being a target for attacks and are being blamed for spreading hate speech. But pay closer attention here. Those outlets, they never say anything bad about the Chinese people. They're always blaming the CCP, the government, which is not a democratically elected one, and which is also not a legal government of China. The Chinese Communist Party, which is responsible for the virus cover-up, for committing genocide, for ideological subversion worldwide, and the government which is constantly threatening its neighbors, who are also Asian. And some of the YouTubers who are exposing CCP's lies are receiving life threats right now, just for speaking out and saying the truth. They've been speaking out against the CCP, which is the true anti-Chinese organization. The organization that made Chinese people suffer, and the organization that is currently exterminating the Chinese culture. And what's interesting here, it's the replacement of concept. The CCP likes to push forward the narrative that the CCP equals China equals Chinese people. Look at what Xi Jinping, the chairman of China, said last summer. 5 things that the Chinese people will never allow. Firstly, does he have any right to represent and speak on behalf of the Chinese people? He was not elected by the Chinese people. So let's just take a look, what did he say? Chinese people will never allow attempts by anyone or any forces to distort the history of the CCP and vilify its nature and mission. The Chinese people will never allow attempts by anyone or any forces to destroy and change the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics, deny and vilify the great achievements of the Chinese people in building socialism. The Chinese people will never allow attempts by anyone or any forces to separate the CCP from the Chinese people and set them against each other. This is probably the most important one, and a very scary one, because right now, for every crime that the Chinese Communist Party commits, it wants the Chinese people to be responsible also. The Chinese people will never allow attempts by anyone or any forces to impose their will on China, change the direction of development, and obstruct Chinese people's efforts in building a better life for themselves. The Chinese people will never allow attempts by anyone or any forces to jeopardize their peaceful life and right to development, obstruct their exchanges and cooperation with other peoples, or undermine the noble cause of peace and development for humanity. Again, Xi Jinping, who are you? How dare you speak on behalf of the Chinese people? How dare you speak on behalf of all the Chinese people? Did you compete in any kind of elections against the other Chinese people? Did you actually get the most of the votes in a democratic election? No, you didn't. You're just a member of a criminal gang, which is the Chinese Communist Party, that is currently ruling China illegally, and is responsible for destroying the Chinese culture during the Cultural Revolution and up until now. For committing crimes against humanity, against Uyghur people, against Tibetans, against Mongolians, against the other ethnic minorities. Who is constantly threatening Taiwan, a country that has never been ruled by the CCP, and who is currently involved in worldwide ideological subversion. Of course, the Chinese Communist Party, which concealed the virus, is happy to use cancel culture against everyone. But if we take a closer look at them, it is the true anti-Asian organization. I mean, you see, Uyghurs are also Asian. Tibetans are also Asian. Taiwanese people are also Asian. Hong Kongers are also Asian. Mongolians are also Asian. And if you take a look at the level of discrimination that ethnic minorities face every day in China, you'll be surprised how racist is this country. Or not only ethnic minorities. Look how they treat Indian people, look how they treat black people. Yes, we should stop Asian hate, and the CCP should be held accountable. To conclude this, I absolutely support all the peaceful protests. And I think right now there is a growing level of racism against Asian people in the United States. And the people should stand up against it. And the word should be spread that we should not prejudge the people based on the color of their skin, based on their religion, based on their sexual orientation, and so on and so forth. But there always is a but. Always watch out for the CCP provocation. Don't make this criminal gang use you in their own political goals. This is Stan, and I see you in the next one.